Hi folks, we're Tassless today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how can we unwind, assuming a reset is coming, and there are signs of it, how can we unwind the globalisation project? Now, to say that globalisation has been injurious to the West, the lifestyle, quality of life of Western white citizens would be an understatement. It's been fucking devastating. And they're continuing to push it as hard as they can. Sure, there's a small elite, one in every 500 or so white people, and they're going to do very, very well out of the globalisation. But for the rest of us, we're screwed. And for those that aren't screwed so far or yet, they will over the next 20 to 30 years. So they'll just be eaten by the crocodile last instead of first, which the working class people, of course, are being devoured early on. Now, we've got some possible resets. If you look at, say, the Reform Party getting into Parliament in Britain with a few members who are asking decent enough questions. I mean, one of the questions, interestingly, was asking the Labor government in Britain to define Islamophobia, and they can't. And they're the ones that scream about Islamophobia being everywhere, and they can't define what it is. I mean, we're a bunch of globalist little lackey stooges they are. But also we've got the very real prospect of Donald Trump, and they'll do everything they can to stop him. I mean, they've already tried to assassinate him, for goodness sakes. What else won't they do? So Donald Trump becoming president there, and the AfD, doing quite well in Germany, or those provinces of Germany, particularly the ones associated with the East, the former Soviet controlled communist East Germany. So they know what it's like to have an oppressive, totalitarian, authoritarian regime controlling things, and they want none of it. They see the same thing that the globalists are trying to impose on them, and they don't want it. So there, and if you look at the rise of Marine Le Pen and the European Parliament election, so on, there's a lot of movement shaking up. Now, the establishment are doing everything they can to stop it, including 100% wall-to-wall propaganda coverage through the media to try and denigrate and smear and so on. The AfD, for example, is roundly called as being Nazi. That's just because they want to reduce mass migration. So, but nonetheless, how would the reset, how would the unwinding of globalisation, what would it look like? Now, a lot of the debates or discussions or commentary online have been along the lines of small sort of micro moves. Well, we have to change the CEO of the local museum, and things like that. So small button pushing, lever pulling things in different ways in different places, that'll fix it. And the long march through the institutions, where the leftist activist type people have gone through the institutions, such as the education establishments, museums, public service, and so on, have gone through these institutions and have taken over, and they have the view, the courts, even police and so on, they have the view that whatever they do is just and good and moral. It's only bad when the other guys do it. So how can we return sanity to, because insanity is what we're living through right now, the desperation to impose this ideological nirvana upon us. And when any totalitarian group sort of he wants to take control, they always censorship and these sorts of things, but they always look at the goal is the paradise, the ideological Marxist nirvana paradise, which is always just around the next corner. And then you get to that corner and, it's around the next corner. It's around the next corner after that. They never get there. So they're quite determined to kill and maim and impoverish as many people as they think it's going to take to get to this paradise, which they never get to. That's why Pol Pot and Stalin and Mao and all these people killed, it's pushing 100 million people plus, whether it's through forced famines or arbitrary murdering and arrests and beatings and tortures and so on. Whether they, whatever the method they employ to do it, it's always in pursuit of this paradise, this ideological paradise that they never get to, but they are prepared to accept any amount of casualties in getting there. And the globalists are making the same mistake. The paradise is only just around that next corner and that next street, and they just can't quite ever get to it. So they're convinced that, well, why aren't we getting to this paradise? It must be because of the far right, and that's their only fallback position. But let's assume this reset. What could we do? Well, certainly in my view, the jettisoning and the departure from merit, whether it's merit in passing an exam, whether it's merit in getting a job, or merit in getting a promotion, or merit in getting some sort of financial reward, like a bonus payment at your job or something like that. When we move away from merit, we allow in all the players and all the participants and all the ideologues. Because remember, the ideologues are ideologically driven, they're not driven by merit or rewarded or selected on merit. It is a perverse form of merit. Are you an ideological fanatic that will condone the killing of white people for any reason at all, as long as we get to an yes, okay, you're in. So you could say that's merit. And for example, maybe are you prepared to work in the media and tell the most gross, grotesque untruths and lies to the public to deceive them? And yes, you are. Okay, you've got the job. So there is a perverse, form of merit. If you're an ideological fanatic, you'll get the promotion, you'll get the job, you'll get the reward. And this is the same whether it be in Pol Pot's Cambodia, Mao's China, or in the Soviet Union. The ideological fanatics were the ones that got rewarded. So if you're a teacher, a school teacher, and teachers were considered to be a very important job because you were pushing propaganda on young minds, and therefore it was a prestigious role. They had to believe that that the people that rewarded you with these jobs, they had to believe that you were an ideology. You were totally, unquestioningly on board with the propaganda and with the ideological objectives. They had to believe that, and they particularly. I've met a few people who were ideological school teachers from the Soviet Union, and they're all quite simple people. I wouldn't say they were moronic necessarily, but they had a sort of a childlike naivety about them. They really were children, and you see this in the ideological fanatics in sort of the gender studies departments and in academia, in the public service. I was sitting down just not that long ago with a bunch of some of the most senior judges in Australia, and and I was amazed at how childlike they were, and yet they've got decisions over life and death every day, and here's this quite childish sort of people. The women even more so than the men. Anyway, so merit is one way to make things unwind. Now, is to unwind globalisation. Now, if we look at, for example, the kids staying on in school, now when strictly pass or fail exams existed, and the schools would come to you and say, listen, I'm paraphrasing, let him use these words or use this language, but they would say, look, you're a fucking hopeless student. You're not going to get anywhere. You've shown no signs of academic or scholastic capacity. Once you go and go and get an apprentice, become an apprentice mechanic, or to do a apprentice hairdressing, or go into something like that. But don't waste your time at school. You just you're not achieving anything, and you could do better for yourself getting out. Okay, and at say 15 years old, the schools would go to children and say, school students would go and say, look, go and get a job. You're wasting your time here. So here was this. So when like the junior high school graduation certificate certificate came round, there was a mass exodus of children, even children that say turned 15 before then. There was a lot of them were gone. I remember being disappointed because all it seemed like nearly all the hot chicks left school as soon as they turned 15. And yeah, some of them were say 16 when you get to the junior graduation certificate, and the ones that failed that, they were gone as well. You had to pass, I think it was 7 subjects you had to, I think, sit for back then, or that was the minimum. And you had to pass 5 of the 7, otherwise it wasn't worth you staying. And you had to be a narrow miss on the other 2. So there was another mass. So when you've got a merit-based system, out of the 220 kids or something that were there, in say the 3rd year of high school, less than a third of those graduated to senior high school. So that's the fallout rate. Whereas today, the graduation into senior high, because they just wave them through, just give them gift certifications, they wave them through into senior high school, and then again wave them through into university. So the reality is that out of every 100 students that started high school, only 3 of those 100 would actually go on to university. That's how it was then, on a strictly pass and fail basis. Whereas today, in all Western countries, somewhere between 40 and 65% of students are getting through into university, and that's a 20 plus increase, a 20-fold increase in the amount of, and none of those students are really passing. The pass rates are the same or less, I would argue, pass or fail exams are less than they were years ago. If I look at the tests that were being, even for junior high school, the graduation test from junior to senior high school, and then you compare the test today at universities, the junior high school exam was far more rigorous and exacting and demanding than someone getting a master's degree in university today. I saw a lady getting a degree in international studies, or getting a master's rather in international studies, and her essay, she asked me to look over it, and I was amazed. Again, if a 3rd year high school student put in a paper like that to me, I'd have flunked them. I would have flunked them, but I made a few. I didn't want to, because they're a friend of my wife, and I didn't want to upset the politics of the relationships and everything. So I made a few little sort of cosmetic suggestions and smiled and gave it back to her. But I thought, is she actually going to pass this? Are they going to give this dumbass chick with this crappy fucking essay, are they going to give her a master's? But she got a master's on it. She actually was given it. She got a credit. A higher pass. So she's swanning around with a degree and a master's like she's some fucking genius, and she's a moron. And the quality of her work is diabolically bad. But this is what's out there in the world at the moment. So if we switch to a merit system, then automatically the people that are moving through into senior high school and being radicalized, gifts, teachers being gifted teaching positions, all this sort of stuff is then strangled off at the base, and this is critically important. Similarly, if we look at DEI and affirmative action employment, that is in direct contradiction to all forms of merit, and I see it pretty much every day now through the business I have a share in. Pretty much all the people that I'm dealing with, I mean, there are some exceptions, but pretty much all the people I'm dealing with are mostly, if not absolutely, unqualified to do their jobs. Yet they all have the certifications. They all have the masters and the PhDs, yet they couldn't sweep the floor without fucking it up. Merit will strangle all this off. So it'll stop the people being hired under affirmative action and DEI, and that the people most qualified will get the job. People who pass the exams will go to senior high school. the people who pass the senior high school graduation, matriculation, graduate, they will then go on to university and so on. It'll be a big shakeout. A lot of these jobs in the universities will go, cultural studies, African American studies, gender studies, any course that has the word studies at the end of it will be gone, and rightly so, because none of those are merit-based. None of these people are passing on any sort of merit or being awarded degrees in any sort of merit. They're just in university to be radicalised, or in senior high school and going on to hate white society, to hate white people, to run around with all this ridiculous and absurd sense of entitlement because slavery or misogyny or something like that. So that, and now the same would apply for the public service. One thing annoys me whenever you meet a public servant, they'll oh, hi, Billy Bob. Oh, where did you go to university? Oh, do you know Professor Jimmy Jack? And that's always that's the handshake. And they think they're so fucking clever. Oh, we're university educated. Not like that hoi polloi, not like those tradespeople, not like those labourers, not like those people that vote for Donald Trump. So these people need to go, and none of these people, certainly not the ones none of them would have got a degree if merit was the qualification. So, and this will take away that sense of entitlement and then that sense of moral superiority. Oh, we're the educated class, not the hoi polloi, not those dirty people on the bottom. We know best and they know nothing. So that would wash out of the system. Now, it may take a little bit of time, but it would wash out through the system. So employment, reward, promotion, graduation through high school and into university, all that has to be merit-based. And similarly, the merit test for say, the public service. Well, we want to spend money on telling white people how evil and misogynist and Nazi and fascist and swastika waving they are. Okay, well, let's apply the merit test for that. Is that of benefit to the public? Is that a benefit? Well, no, but well, then we don't do it. So again, that merit test would stop all this insane carry on through the cultural institutions or the universities, or awarding money to people to engage in cultural or anything to do with entertainment, sports, and so on. Does it apply to all the fans? Does it apply to all the supporters of this football code or sporting code? Well, no, it just applies to the LGBT. No, then it doesn't go ahead. It must apply to everybody equally and must meet the merit test for that. It must meet them. This is not a debating point. It must meet them. Now, once you apply that merit test, then the whole thing falls apart. The same as if we're going to take this legal case to court, even though there's no evidence that the man committed did this, or the indecent assault or the rape, whatever. There's no evidence. We're taken to court for ideological reasons because we must support the oppressed. No. Does it support justice, equal justice for all? Well, no. We're just doing it because radical feminist ideology demands it. No. It must meet the merit test. So by applying this merit test, and the same could be said for the political class. The merit test has to are you putting policies forward that the people vote for? Are you doing policies? Are you engaging in behaviour and policy that people don't want? Well, why should we listen to them? They're only the great unwashed. We are no. You represent the people. Now, we can go on subsets of that. For example, people who are standing for a certain electoral district, I think, must have lived there for at least since they're 10 years old or something like that. They must be from the local area, know the local people, and have local support, and they're representing that district in the federal, the Congress or the Parliament or whatever. These sorts of things we could talk about. But we need to come back to the police need to be absolutely impartial. We'll just let those brown and black people riot and burn buildings down because, racial equality. And there's some white people over there doing this, arrest those motherfuckers and get out the truncheons and beat the shit out of them. No. The merit test applies. Are you applying the law equally to all citizens? Well, no, because ideology. Well, then you're doing what merit must apply. So by introducing merit, and as I've described it there, this would bring an end to globalization, and the infrastructure of globalization would also be put to rest, and it certainly needs to be. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.